Today in college football, you win, you're in! The Group of 5 better than the Big 12 in College Hoops Weekend. All this right now on American Game Day. Welcome to American Game Day. Today's Saturday, December 17th. I'm your host, Braden Slater. And, it's conference championship weekend. Yeah, can you believe college football season's wrapping up? What do y'all think about the season so far? Well, I'll break that all down on Slater Report Podcast on Monday, actually, and Tuesday. I'll do a couple episodes next week. But first, before I jump ahead myself, we have a huge slate of games. It's hard to pick all the big games, and I'm tired of SEC controlling college football. So I'm going with the ACC, Clemson versus SMU. I'm giving SMU some hype this weekend as well. But, it's not just Saturday we have some games. We have some games last night as well. Mainly the Mountain West, where the Mountain West is going to the playoffs. Also, we had here we go. UNLV versus Boise State. Yeah, there's the final score of that game. Boy, was that a game. The winner of this game is going to the playoffs, and it all depends on the Big 12, which one gets the first round bye. And then the American Conference is Tulane versus Army. Yep, Army is looking to get a good spot. Can they actually win a conference this time? That would be awesome if the Service Academy can win their conference. There is the final score of that game. Now on to the Big 12. Yeah, the Big 12 got, not the Big 12, but the college headline started with the Big 12. The Big 12 commissioner is very confused on, we're a Power 5, school. Well, I guess now Power 4, but, when the Pac-12 gets all their new members here in a couple of years, it will become the Power 5 again. But he's really confused with why his champion doesn't get a first-round bye over a Group of 5 champion. That would either be Boise State or UNLV. It's quite possible that even if UNLV does beat Boise State, UNLV could get that first-round bye. We'll have to find out later tonight that that's possible. Also, Oklahoma has hired a new offensive coordinator, and just hours later, Jackson Arnold has entered the transfer portal. Yep, does not mean that he will leave. It's just that he is looking at his options in the NIL and what schools that are willing to offer him a deal. And also, UCF, for some reason, wants to hire Lincoln Riley, even though he's not even available. UCF, you do know that your school is a downgrade from USC. The only way you would probably hire him if USC fired Lincoln Riley. Or is that a hint that Lincoln Riley's going to get fired? If it was, it would have happened already. Also, Oklahoma State. Mike Gundy has fired both his offense and defensive coordinator after a 3-9 season. 0-9 in the Big 12. Alright, let's go back to the ACC. You already saw that it's going to be Clemson versus SMU in the championship game, but let's see how the rest of the standings ended up. Yeah, here's the final standings in the SEC. Miami at 3, Georgia Tech at 4, and number 5 is Syracuse. Yeah, I think Georgia Tech beating Florida State was not a fluke. I think they were actually a good team beating Florida State, and Florida State almost won that game. Can you believe that? Wow. Yeah. And I haven't yet to hear any big news out of Florida State on any coaches getting fired. Probably has happened already, but I haven't heard anything yet. But, Miami, had a great season. But started the season pretty great, but did not end it too bad. But ended pretty badly. Yeah, getting some late season losses, and that allowed Clemson to face SMU. Now, some people were saying SMU had probably one of the easiest ACC schedules. Well, we're about to find out. This is why we have conference championship games. SMU wins, they are the real deal. If they loses, well, it was right. They did get an easy schedule, and they probably don't belong in the playoffs. So, basically, yeah, you win, you're in. You lose, well, you better lose closely. I think I got an upset alert in this game. Look at the turnover ratio on this one. Clemson completely dominates it. I mean, Clemson dominates every stat on here. Very possible that Clemson will probably win this game by 20 plus points. Yeah, you heard me. You can quote me on this. Clemson could very possibly win this game by 20 plus points. Yeah, it probably won't even be close, but we'll see. SMU might surprise me, but Cade's gonna be the reason why. It's gonna be the defense that really stands out for Clemson. But we'll see if Cade can outperform SMU's defense. He's passed 64% over 3,000 yards, 29 touchdowns, and he's got 5 interceptions for this season. But let's look at SMU. Oh boy, it's gonna be chaotic for him because he's going to face that Clemson defense, and boy, are they good. He's passing 67%, 2,700 yards, 19 touchdowns, and 7 interceptions. Yeah, it's going to be quite a game. He's going to struggle sometime. He's just got to limit the turnovers. That's all I got to say. On to the Big Ten. Look at the final standings from the Big Ten. Obviously, Oregon's at the top with number 1. Here's where I get a little questionable. Penn State's at 2, Ohio State 3, Indiana 4, and number 5 is Iowa. Alright, so we all know that, okay, Penn State and Ohio State are right next to each other. Yeah, you would think that Ohio State would get the, even with the loss last week, Ohio State would still be in the Big Ten championship because they have the head-to-head win over Penn State. But if you look at conference record, Penn State gets it over Ohio State, even with the head-to-head matchup, which kind of makes sense, but also head-to-head, apparently doesn't matter, I guess. But to me, honestly, think it should be Ohio State. But hey, you lose, you're out. You just gotta win your games, and yeah, Penn State, fortunately, lost their game early on and won out to losing to Ohio State. They're number 3 in the country, playing number 1 in the Big Ten, Oregon. This is possibly, I should have made this our big game of the week too, but, you know, the ACC hasn't really gotten that respect lately. But, you know, 7 o'clock on CBS tonight. Here is the stat comparison. It is pretty even. It is pretty even. These two teams are pretty even offensively. Now, defensively, that's another story. Because Penn State's got the defense. I mean, I think their defense are pretty even. But I think the Penn State defense is a lot better than Oregon. Yeah, Oregon tends to... Dylan Gabriel needs... I'll talk about Dylan Gabriel here in a minute. But let's talk about Drew Allen. He's passing 72%. Over 2,600 yards, 18 touchdowns, and 5 interceptions. So that's quite a stat for Drew Allen. Now let's talk about Dylan Gabriel, because he has to work his magic, because sometimes, I mean, the Oregon defense is pretty good, but sometimes Dylan Gabriel has to work his magic and come up with a great win at the end. You have the 2-minute drill. Yeah, he's passing 74%, over 3,200 yards, 24 touchdowns, and 6 interceptions. Again, not a bad stat to end your season. And, yeah, very likely will win the Heisman. He is in the Heisman race for sure. Now let's look at the Big 12. This one is going to be probably the most confusing out of all the conferences. Arizona State is 1, even voting dead last preseason. I have BYU at 2, Colorado at 3, and Iowa State at 4, and Texas Tech at 5. None of the teams on this picture in the top 4 played each other. No head-to-head. They're all 7-2. I looked at stats and just, not really stats, but I looked at eye test, and to me, yeah, I know BYU's ended their season, didn't end their season that great, but they won their last game. Colorado, I mean, yeah, they beat a bad Oklahoma State 52-0. Yeah, but obviously, the Big 12 went with Iowa State and Arizona State, even though, to me, I think it should be Arizona State versus BYU. But, hey, you gotta win your games when you gotta win your games. But 11 o'clock on ABC. Number 8, number 16, Iowa State versus number 15, Arizona State. This is going to be quite a matchup. It's going to be battle for the playoff. You win, you're in. You lose, you're out. Yep. That's... And I think that's why the Big 12 commissioner does not like how the Group of 5 gets over them, because really both these two teams probably should be in the playoff, even if you do lose. But look at the stat comparison. Arizona State, I think, probably surprising everyone getting here. Yeah, look at them getting plus 11 in turnovers. They're pretty even on scoring. Passing, Iowa State's got that covered as well, but don't sleep on Arizona State. But, yeah. Roku Beckham passed it 60% over 3,000 yards, 20 touchdowns, and he's got 8 interceptions, which is something he kind of gets out of hand with. Sometimes he just throws in the traffic and it is tipped and intercepted. That's something that Arizona State is usually all over on, is turnovers. And, yeah, Sam Levy, oh, yeah, he pretty much limits it. He's only got 5 interceptions of the year. He's passed the 63% over 2,400 yards and 21 touchdowns. That is quite a stat for him, something that we didn't expect. And I really love how Arizona State's a Cinderella, and I didn't even have Arizona State in my Cinderella race this year, or cupcake race this year. Alright, and then on to the SEC. This one is pretty easy to decide which one's going to be in. I got Texas at 1. I got Georgia at 2. I got Tennessee at 3. At 4, I got South Carolina, and at 5, I have Ole Miss. Notice how A&M's not on this list, even though they started their season in conference 5-0. Yeah, and some may debate, yeah, and some are probably thinking maybe South Carolina deserved the playoff chance, but they do have the 3 losses. Maybe next year for Beeman. But yeah, it's clearly obvious that it's going to be Texas versus Georgia in the SEC championship game. Texas has been dominating despite having probably one of the easiest schedules in the SEC. They've been pretty dominating. Their own 1 loss is to Georgia. They lost 30-15. They're going to get a rematch this time. Texas win this game. And yes, Texas has a ranked win. But so far, heading into this game, they did beat A&M when they were ranked. They're pretty much not going to be ranked anymore with this loss. So yeah, Texas basically has 0 ranked wins. Heading into the SEC championship game, which is weird, but 3 o'clock on ABC. Gonna be quite a ball game. Now, Georgia does have those 2 losses to Alabama. I forgot who their other loss was, but yeah. Georgia probably should have came back and beat Alabama. But yeah, Georgia's been unstoppable lately. But turnovers is Georgia's real problem here. Same with Texas. I mean, despite the +7, Quinn Ewers has got to get that under control. Both quarterbacks have a turnover problem. I'll talk about Carson Beck first. He's passed the 65% over 3,400 yards, 28 touchdowns, and probably the most interceptions I've seen on the stat for a team that's heading to a conference championship game. Carson Beck's got 12 interceptions. I mean, I don't know how many fumbles he has, but I know there's quite a few fumbles as well that he has. So turnovers is definitely going to be a huge problem for him. And Quinn Ewers as well. He's got 7 as well. They're both careless with the ball, especially Quinn Ewers. I mean, to me, I thought his interceptions would be more than Carson Beck. Apparently not, but Quinn Ewers is passing 67% over 2,300 yards and he's got 24 touchdowns. Not bad stats to ignore his turnovers. Alright, let's look at the MAC. Yeah, the MAC's got a Ohio versus Miami. Yeah, in their conference championship game. Yeah. Yeah, both of them are not going to the playoffs. Yeah, I really haven't even watched the MAC game all season long, so I really don't even know which one is going to win, but this game's going to be 11 o'clock on ESPN. In the Sun Belt, I really haven't seen much of the Sun Belt at all either, but 6:30 ESPN, Marshall versus Louisiana. I think since Louisiana's got a 10-win season, I'm going to probably pick Louisiana to win this game, but Marshall is 1 win away from getting a 10-win season as well. Marshall, I haven't heard quite bad things from Marshall. I've only heard positive things, but let's see. Let's look at the race to the playoffs. At the top of my group of 5, possibly getting a first-round bye, is Boise State. I have them at number 13. Memphis, I got them at 19. 21 is Army, and Tulane is 25, and UNLV is at the bottom. Yeah, this is going to change quite a lot after this one. Memphis is the only one on this list that's not playing in their conference. Despite, I think that, I don't know how Tulane is going to the conference championship with the 9-3 record. They just had a terrible non-conference game, but that shows how strong their strength of schedule is. So maybe that's why Tulane is ranked. Okay, I got a new segment for American Gameday called Debatable, where I really just talk about the college football playoff and the bowl games that are on the way said and done. And I will say this, even though we got conference championship games today, the playoff is basically set. Here it is. We got Oregon at 1, Texas at 2, SMU at 3, Boise State at 4. Now, depending on the conference championship game, these teams will still move around, but I say a majority of these teams that are in the playoff right now will be in. Alright, gonna break it down. All the teams. Oregon, win or lose, they're in. Texas, win or lose, they're in. SMU. Well, that's gonna be a big one because SMU is 8 on the ranking. They lose that, quite possibly. It's really a debate between Alabama and SMU to get the 11th spot. You know, the selection committee is going to put Alabama over SMU if they lose to Clemson, because Clemson will take that 3 spot. But I'll talk more about that here in just a minute. Boise State. They're in trouble. They're not locked, but they gotta beat UNLV. If they beat UNLV, they're in. If UNLV beats them, UNLV takes that spot. And then let's look at the big matchups. Arizona State and Penn State. Not going to be bad. I think they can do better. Tennessee and Ohio State. That one's going to be a good one. Alabama, Notre Dame. That one's going to be a good one as well. I still think Notre Dame would destroy them. Indiana, Georgia. I know they can do better. I know they can. And then Miami and Ole Miss is just left out of the playoffs. And in case you're wondering, South Carolina is behind Ole Miss as well. Now, is there any chance that Miami, Ole Miss, and South Carolina go to the playoffs? No, I don't think. So, yeah, their debate to go to the playoffs is over. But let's look at the rest of the rankings. Look at the top 25. We got Memphis, Army, and Syracuse are now new in the ranking. Colorado goes up a few spots, and Illinois, I forgot they were ranked. Yeah, they go up a few spots as well. Now here's the big one. UNLV is the second highest group of 5 team right now. So the Mountain West has Boise State and UNLV, both in their conference championship game, and they're the 2 highest. So whoever wins the Mountain West is in the playoff. Doesn't even matter about the Doesn't even matter about the American Conference game, Army versus Tulane, unless like Army's the is the only Army is ranked, Tulane's not. So unless Army completely annihilates Tulane, and like Boise State and UNLV is like a boring game and it really doesn't show any hype at all, I don't see any chance for the American Conference to be in the playoff. It's really between the winner of Boise State and UNLV. Missouri at 19, BYU 18, Clemson 17. And here's the big one. Iowa State is 16. Oh yeah, Clemson has 17 as well. Iowa State and Clemson both playing for the conference tournament. Conference championship game today. Yeah, they're in the Power 4, and if they lose, they're out of the playoff. If they win, they're in. Not bad, just win your game. But if you lose, you're out. But let's take a look at who's ahead of them, who's not playing in their conference. Okay, well, Arizona State's at 50. Now let's look at who's ahead of Arizona State. Keep in mind, Arizona State's 10-2. Look at all the teams ahead of them that have 9-3. Even Miami, I can see why Miami be ahead of Arizona State, but Miami's not playing their conference game. Arizona State is. Why in the world is South Carolina, Ole Miss, and Alabama ahead of Arizona State? Come on. So basically, I seriously think that even if Arizona State loses their conference game to Iowa State, I still think Arizona State should get that 11th seed and replace Alabama. If Arizona State wins, they get the 4th seed. If they lose, they get the 11th seed. I mean, this ranking is like completely biased for the SEC, mainly Alabama. Look at the top 10. Boise State 10. Indiana 9, SMU 8, Tennessee 7, Ohio State 6, Georgia 5, Notre Dame 4, Penn State 3, Texas 2, and number 1 is Oregon. Really, the top 5 is the only part of the rankings I agree with. Basically. Yeah, let's look at the SEC real quick. Alright. These are the SEC teams that have a shot at going to the playoffs, but are on the bubble. These are the bubble SEC teams, basically. Now, I have this in alphabetical order, and I have their rankings right next to them. Now, for Alabama to go to the playoff, SMU would need to beat Clemson. Seems simple enough, because it's very likely if SMU loses that game, they might put SMU at 11 and Alabama's out of the playoff. I don't see that happening. I still think Alabama's in, nevertheless, because they're Alabama. Now, for Ole Miss, they need SMU to lose, basically, and Arizona State to win. No. Wait. Ole Miss needs SMU to win, because that takes Clemson out. And then Arizona State to win, because that takes Iowa State out. And they just hope that the selection committee thinks, oh, maybe Ole Miss is better than Alabama. That's just their only hope, and flip Ole Miss and Alabama, possibly. Probably not going to happen. And then for South Carolina, they need SMU to win, Arizona State to win, and UNLV to win, basically. Yeah, I need a little high hope, and just hope that maybe re-look at their resume and think, oh, maybe they are better than Ole Miss and Alabama. But I still think that's a lot to ask for. And then Tennessee, I think Tennessee is locked in. Something crazy would have to happen today for them to be left out of the playoff, but I think Tennessee is locked. Now, here's how I would order the SEC, those 4 teams. I would have Tennessee in, South Carolina, depending on the SMU, the ACC game, SMU and Clemson, and then Ole Miss and Alabama on the bubble. That's how I would have it. I really think South Carolina is the better team of the others. All right. Here is, let's take a look at the bracket prediction based on winner of conference games. So, if Georgia were to beat Texas, I mean, those two would basically flip spots. Seems simple enough. But let's say Texas beats Georgia. Georgia still, obviously, Texas still gets the 2 spot. Texas still in the playoffs. They'll be a 10th seed, likely playing Ohio State. Seems simple enough. Now let's go to the ACC. Alright? The ACC, their bubble teams, Clemson and Miami. SMU. Now, SMU real quick. To me, I think they are locked. Even if they lose to Clemson, close. For SMU to be in the playoff, if they lose, they have to lose to Clemson close and have a reasonable argument to say, hey, we're better, even though we lost to Clemson, we lost to them close, and I think we still need to be in over Alabama. Now, for Clemson to be in, simple enough, beat SMU. For Miami, well, basically needs SMU to win, obviously, and possibly UNLV to win because knocking off Boise State, but it really doesn't matter because the winner of Mountain West is in. The loser is out. I doubt that if Boise State loses, they'll still keep them in. So let's look at the bracket. Clemson beat SMU. We all know that SMU wins, Clemson down, and it's the same bracket. But if Clemson wins, that likely takes SMU out of the playoffs. I'm thinking ahead of the select committee, thinking, oh, they'll put Alabama over SMU. I didn't fix that, yeah, because they have SMU at 12, or the first 2 out, followed by SMU and Miami, likely. But yeah, Clemson beat SMU. Clemson will get that 12th seed because with that loss, since Clemson is behind the 2 Big 12 teams, the Big 12, the winner of the Big 12 will get the 4th seed. As of right now, I have Arizona State, the highest one, so they will get that bye week. But yeah, Clemson wins. They'll likely be playing Penn State. Now on to the Big 12. Let's say that basically the winner of the Big 12 gets the 12th seed. Unless UNLV beats Boise State. Basically. Yeah. Basically, the only way for the Big 12 to get a first round bye is if either Boise State or SMU loses. That's the only way. And the winner of the Big 12 basically is in the playoff. The loser is out. So the winner of the Big 12 playing Penn State, basically. Yeah, that's basically it. I'll probably do more breaking down of it on the Slave Report podcast on Tuesday. But let's look at our rankings comparison. Mine versus the CFP. Alright, here it is. Obviously, top 4, the same. I have SMU slightly higher than they do. So does Indiana. Kind of agreement with Georgia. But why in the world is Arizona State that low? How? I cannot believe this. I mean, they're 10-2. Yeah, they have the 2 losses, but they're trending up. They look great. I mean, if Arizona State had an SEC logo next to them instead of the Big 12, Arizona State would for sure be a top 10 team right now, not top 15. Same with Iowa State. Why in the world? You're playing for your conference and you're not in the top 10. Not one of them. At least have one in the top 10 from the Big 12. Even Clemson not getting that much respect. Although, I will say this. I do have Clemson at 20. I think Clemson is pretty reasonable. I really think Miami should be in the ACC tournament instead of Clemson, but that's just my opinion. Also, I think it should be Arizona State versus BYU in the Big 12 Championship. That's just my opinion as well. But let's look at my bracket. This is what I think the bracket should look like based off of this regular season. Again, Oregon, Texas, first round bye, SMU 3. But I have Arizona State. I'm getting the first round bye over Boise State. I really like the way Arizona State's been playing. And also, look at these matches. Boise State and Penn State. That's going to be a fun matchup. Ohio State and Georgia. That's going to be a fun matchup. Miami, Notre Dame. Who wouldn't want to see that? And then Tennessee and Indiana? Yeah. I mean, those are going to be great games. And I have Iowa State and Ole Miss just left out of the playoff. I mean, I still have Iowa State still having the shot at the playoffs. The bubble team. This is crazy. Anyway, yeah, but we already have some a couple bowl games set. Yeah, on December 14th, South Alabama versus Western Kentucky. And then December 24th is South Florida versus St. Joe State. All right. I think that's going to wrap up this part of the segment of Debatable. All right, back to American Game Day. Alright, let's take a look at some NFL headlines, starting with Trevor Lawrence. Yeah, he got a season-ending concussion. Oh yeah, 3rd and 5, he gets about 6 yards on the play and takes a late slide and takes an unfortunate hit to the head as he slides. Yep, concussion, dangerous hit. He will be fine, but he's just got to have a concussion and take a breather for the rest of the season. He will be back next season. But, yeah, big question there is, should we take sliding out? Because apparently I've seen more collisions and more dangerous hits with the sliding, even though it's really supposed to protect the quarterback. And he was running at the time, so to me, I really think, look at that, yeah, bad hit, but what the defense is supposed to do there. Also, we have some Thursday Night Football. It's really the game of the week. Packers versus the Lions. Playoffs is on the line there. There's the final score of that game. And the Chiefs got a good game against the Chargers tomorrow at 7:20 on NBC. Yeah, the Chiefs have played every one of their games has been like a one-score game. I haven't seen a blowout yet. This game's going to be no exception. The Chargers are second in the NFC West. They did beat the Falcons 17-13 last week. They're trending up. They only lost by like 3 points to the Ravens. Also, yeah, his brother, the head coaches, going after each other as well. And the Cowboys on Monday Night Football 7:15 on ABC. They're also playing in The Simpsons apparently on Disney Plus, but gonna be a pretty boring game because they're playing the Bengals. But yeah, they're gonna be third in the AFC North. They're 1-4 in their last 5 games, so maybe Dallas has a chance here. And yeah, and last week they lost to the Steelers 44-38. I don't know. They're 1-4 the last 5 games. Maybe they'll get this win and pull an upset against the Cowboys. Who knows? Here's some other big games on the scoreboard for tomorrow. The Falcons versus the Vikings. And then the Seahawks versus the Cardinals. Got to be a good one as well. This one, putting the Bills on upset alert here against the Rams. 3:25 on Fox. And I just need to throw in another game here. The Bears versus the 49ers. It's the battle of the worst offense ever. Yeah, if you want to see a bad team, watch that game. All right, let's look at the NFL standings from the American Conference. Obviously, the Chiefs are at the top, followed by the Bills. See if they can get past the Rams tomorrow. And then if somehow the Rams beat them, the Steelers will be back in the playoff race. Well, I mean, they are, but they can really clinch it here in the next couple of weeks. The Chargers as well, if they do get a good win tonight tomorrow against the Chiefs, really work their way up there. And the Texans are at 5. Yep, it's going to be quite a race. If the Chiefs end up winning in the next couple of games, it's going to be quite a race in the American Conference. Let's look at the national rankings. Yep, the Lions are going to be number 1. Number 2 is the Eagles. Number 3 it's the Vikings. And number 4, it's the Packers. And number 5 will be the Commanders. So again, from the last time I did this show 2 weeks ago, nothing really changed in the standings. And obviously, our records are all pretty close. And we're getting, I think we're about 4 weeks left of the regular season, I think. So, something could change, and I think seeing that the standings haven't changed much in the past couple of weeks, I think we're pretty set on who's going to the playoffs or who's not. Alright, talk some college hoops. Wisconsin versus Marquette. Yeah, 11 versus 5. 12:30 on Fox. Yep. And somehow the conference championship game, the early conference championship game, turned out to be a blowout or boring. Well, you have basketball as a backup, so yeah, I'm about to talk about all the big games going on today and tomorrow. Also, our game of the week in hoops, Kentucky versus Gonzaga. It's a top 10 matchup, 9 o'clock, ESPN 2. This is a late game, one of those late games, so yeah, after all those find out who's in the playoffs or not, you get to finish it off with some basketball. Awesome. That's pretty great. Hope you're not watching NBA. You're watching basketball. Basketball is 100% better. Told you so. Yep. And then tomorrow at 12, ESPN 2, be Kansas versus Missouri. Yep. Kansas is hopefully going to knock off the SEC. The SEC has been dominating their non-conference this year. Where'd they go? Like 10-2 in their SEC and ACC challenge. I'm pretty impressed by the SEC. Alright, and then let's look at the teams we cover in basketball now. We're going to do the 4-box this time until we get deep into the college basketball season. But Southern will be playing Tulsa. Tulsa's already terrible. Oklahoma played at Acorn State. Oklahoma's ranked at 21 now after winning their preseason conference. Preseason tournament thing. Oklahoma State got Seton Hall. Oklahoma State's got some redemption to do as they start their season 5-2, and Texas has got the Yukon Huskies. Yeah, we should not be playing conference tournaments or preseason tournaments anymore, especially 3 games in a row. Yeah, we're gonna throw a fit every time we get a call not our way. Anyway, here's the top 5 in college hoops. Kansas and Auburn are running the sport right now, followed by Tennessee, Kentucky, and Marquette. Marquette can jump back in there with their win. Oh, yeah. Marquette's got a good game as well coming up. Kentucky's got Gonzaga, so we're getting like an early March Madness here. All right. It's now time for the option! Yeah, let's run it through some conference championship games. Start with the Big 12, 11 o'clock on ABC. The Iowa State Cyclones versus the Arizona State Sun Devils. Number 16 versus 15. Winner goes to the playoff. Arizona State, they get a first round bye. If Iowa State gets in, they will have the, well, actually, none of them are getting the first round bye unless Boise State loses. That's the only way they're getting the first round bye. But I got Arizona State winning this game. In the MAC, Ohio versus Miami. Ohio. Yep. They're both in the state of Ohio, and Ohio State's not in the conference championship game. I think I said, I don't remember what I said earlier, but I might have said Miami, Ohio, but I'm going to pick Ohio. I kind of like the road. The road team's been doing great all season long, even though it's a neutral site game. The SEC's got Georgia versus Texas. And much as I want to see both these two teams lose, someone's going to win, and I think Texas is going to be ready for this one this time. I don't think they're going to lose 30-15 this time. Give me Texas to win this game and a first-round bye to the playoffs. The Sun Belt's got Marshall and Louisiana. I said it earlier, I really like seeing the way that Louisiana... Actually, I really haven't seen any one of these two teams, but I have heard some great things about both teams. I really haven't heard any bad things. I'm going to go with Louisiana to pick this game, to win this game. 6:30 on ESPN. Big 10, 7 o'clock, CBS. Penn State versus Oregon. What is the Nittany Lions going to do here? Not play often. because Dylan Gabriel will have that for sure. Give me the Ducks by 10. Ducks are going to win this 10 by 10 plus points. You can quote me on that. And then our game of the week, the SEC Championship game, the Tigers versus the Mustangs. First year in the ACC, and they steamrolled the conference. 7 o'clock on ABC. Will it last? They did have the easiest schedule in conference, so that is going to throw me to Clemson. I'm sorry, SNU, but your Cinderella story is over. Give me Clemson. Going to win this game, go into the playoffs, and knock Alabama out of the playoffs. Please. Please. If Clemson wins this game and Alabama's still in the conference, something's wrong. And I'll have a story to talk about that Monday on American Game Day. Anyway, I'll see y'all next week on American Game Day.